income, somewhere have achieved something. And I found like myself little odd, yeah? Drug user among this group? What's happening here? So I was just thinking, oh, okay. But then anyway, I really appreciate and thank you, especially to the organizer, especially recognizing that my existence. I'm a drug user and I'm part of this society. And thank you so much. We were never recognized by existence. So, many a times there are a lot of information like, drug users are a threat to society. Do you think I'm really a threat to society? So I don't have a horn, I don't have a fang. I'm not really a threat to society. I have my own stories to tell. My friends have own stories to tell. And we are part of this system. हामी कुनै मार्सबाट आएको होइन, कुनै जुपिटरबाट आएको होइन. म हाम्रो बन्दना म्यामले भन्नुहुँदै थियो, उहाँ गेजिङबाट हुनुहुँदो रहेछ. म गेजिङमा जन्मेको हो. So later on I moved here with my family. So to talk about, I'm a drug user. I have survived with TB, I've survived with hepatitis C. Luckily, I did not got the infection of HIV. But then I have went through several overdose and I have almost died also. I have all sort of experience that one drug user have in their lifetime. But then many a times people think that, oh, this happened because of using drugs. Actually, to tell you the truth, it really doesn't happen because I just use drugs. There are a lot of other things. I'd like to request this one story that I just wanted to share. So media like me request and then the person also not to record it because this is my very recent experience with my own family. So my brother-in-law recently he committed suicide. He left behind one young child. He's around 14. So because of that trauma, I found a couple of days back he started sniffing glue, smoking cannabis. Now let's say after 10 years he becomes a person who uses drugs or sniffing glues regularly and he gets into addiction or dependency. How we see then and how we see him now? Do we think that this young chap is going through a trauma that he has lost recently his father and then he's not been able to cope up, what he has experienced? Most of the time what we think is like, abako 10 barsako यस्तो घटिया मान्छे रहेछ यो ड्रग खाएर हाम्रो समाज त्यस्तो प्रकारले कुरा गर्छौं. And this kind of wrong information has spread all over the world. See, I'll tell you one of the wrong information that has spread all over the world. His name is Aslinger. He's from the United States. He's the one who designed all this kind of wrong narrative to especially counter some community group, especially in America in 1800. So who was the marginalized community in US? Hispanics, Chinese, brown people, and black Africans. So American wanted to, throw them out from their country. So they come up with a plan called war on drugs. आज हामी सिक्किममा war on drugs भनेर भन्छौं, हामीले मिनिङ पनि थाहा छैन त्यो war on drugs भनेको के हो भनेर. So now today we are celebrating United Nations को International Youth Day. So what is the basis of our law? SADA को कुरा गर्छौं हामी, NDPS को कुरा गर्छौं. त्यो law को basis के हो भनेर हाम्रै even यहाँकै मान्छेहरुलाई पनि, I'm not wanted to directly point out all the politicians and the policy maker. Even they also don't know what exactly the basis of our law. It is the convention which is drafted by the United Nations. But then, unfortunately, United Nations को हामीले convention मा हेर्यौ भने त्यहाँनिर कहीँ पनि लेखेको छैन कि drug userलाई जेलमा हाल्नुपर्छ भनेर. But then we have been doing it because somebody spread propaganda. And the propaganda चाहिँ कस्तो थियो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ please read out. It's very interesting story. We need to understand this. Aslinger hated the black community and Hispanic so much. He started saying like, black community जब पनि गाँजा खान्छ त्यसले गएर white womenहरुलाई rape गर्छ. This kind of wrong information has been spread all over the America. So that is the reason why in 1960s हरुतिर त्यहाँनिर एकदमै war on drugs डरलाग्दो भएर आयो क्या. अन्त त्यो बिस्तारै बिस्तारै, because we being a part of the United Nations as a country, we are obligated to apply the treaties that whichever we signed for. So, but then हाम्रो treaties-मा त यस्तो लेखेको छैन कि drug user-लाई थुन्नुपर्छ, हाल्नुपर्छ. So, but then it's very unfortunate that आजको दिनमा पनि drug users are being still marginalized, criminalized, and seen and misunderstood differently. Drug users are not threat. Drug user has a family. We are human beings. We have our own stories. Or like I said, हाम्रो आफ्नै कुराहरू छ, हैन? So त्यसले गर्दाखेरि but then we never get a platform to share ourselves. We never get एकैचोटि के देख्छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ ए फल्नाले यस्तो गरेछ. So for example, let's say I'm a Sharma. So if I've murdered somebody, so you'll blame all the Sharma. You'll not, right? So एउटा दुईटा इन्सिडेन्ट्सलाई लिएर चाहिँ हामी सबै कुरालाई त्यो एउटै नजरले हेर्न थाल्छौँ क्या. And which kind of narrative has gone the way worse. So some kind of, I always preach about we need to have a policy which is based on evidence, scientific and human rights. हाम्रो लको बेसिस के हो? ड्रग युजरहरू नराम्रो मान्छेहरू हो, यिनीहरूलाई नराम्रै प्रकारले हेर्नुपर्छ. So it is nothing to do with moral. After यो सकेर तपाईहरु घरमा जानुहुन्छ, तपाईहरु दुधु पेक लगाउनुहुन्छ होला. Do I see like, oh, something is wrong, he was different then, he is different अहिले भनेर? So it's not. So we have treated some people very differently than we have treated other people very differently. And there are a lot of propaganda, there are a lot of politics. I'll rephrase the word, the quote shared by the Kofi Annan. Kofi Annan प्रायलाई तपाईहरुलाई थाहा पनि छ होला. He is the General Secretary of the UN को. उहाँले के भन्नुभएको छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ maybe drugs has done more harm to the people, but wrong-headed politician, wrong-headed government has done more harm to the people. So this is very important to understand that we exist, we are there, हामी सबैजना छौं हैन. अर्को प्रोपागन्डा म तपाईहरुलाई शेयर गर्नु मन लाग्यो के एकदम इन्ट्रेस्टिङ छ. This was during 1800 centuries. This might be very interesting to you, madam. So त्यति बेला Pope, especially Roman Europe मा coffee was literally banned. Coffee was not allowed to drink. जो जसले पनि खान्छ, जो जसले पनि बेच्छ, they used to be hanged, मार्दिन्थ्यो. And the reason why the Pope did that is because they believe whatever used to come from Africa and then the Middle East बाट आएको चाहिँ सबै satanic हुन्छ भनेर क्या. It is very much with the religion. It is nothing to do with the coffee. It is all to do with the politics and the religion and things like that. So even there are a lot of research has been done. Like among all the categories of drugs, like हामीले alcohol कहिले पनि सोच्दैनौँ drugs भनेर, because it is licit. So अरू form of narcotics drugsहरूलाई हामी illicit भनेर consider गर्छौँ, right? So एकजना हाम्रो he is a scientist and he is a doctor also, Dr. Scott. He has done a good studies, and just the studies even in Lancet paper also. So among all these form of drugs, like whether it is alcohol, cannabis, cocaine, crack, heroin, mushroom, whatever the list of drugs, among all of them, the most harmful drugs is alcohol. Just to make everyone clear, हामीले हाम्रो समाजमा रक्सीले मान्छे मर्यो भनेर कतिजनाले सुनेको छौँ? Please raise your hand. Okay. So now raise your hand. कतिजनाले सुन्नु भएको छ गाँजाले मान्छे मर्यो भनेर? I'm not saying कि hey, go and start smoking gaza. I'm just trying to give you the narrative, So कतिजनाले सुन्नु भएको छ? Please raise your hand. गाँजाले मान्छे मरेको. So the information which has been provided to us may not be enough. I'm not saying कि हाम्रो समाजमा भोलिदेखि एकदम दोकान सोकान खोलौँ, what is happening in the Netherlands and other countries. I'm not saying that. But let's speak the truth. Let's tell the right story. Let's bring the right thing so that we can help the community, right? So yeah, I don't know where we are heading, but then we have to be very careful, whichever direction that we are heading, especially when it comes to Sikkim, because I feel म कोही बेला नर्थ इस्टहरु जान्छु के, I see the pride हुन्छ नि त्यो their own among their communities. Sometimes I miss those unification or the solidarity among our own community also, I don't mind we being more merged with the mainland also, but then we are in a very unique space that we have to, because sometimes I think like Tripura, Now I see Mr. Pradyut speaking for their own people, but then, the things can be a very different. So I'll tell you the story. I think 1 year back, one young police officer was caught with the substance in your 32 number ko katanira choma. Yeah. And then the chief minister made an announcement in one of the occasions saying that jo pani employment abo Sikkim police ma aउँछ सबको drug test हुन्छ त्यहाँदेखि मात्रै employment हुन्छ भनेर. And I could not reach him because, again, it's a little difficult. But then I could reach the police officer, Mr. Akshay Sachdeva, and I went to him and I told, this kind of all things has been done by so many countries and it has failed terribly. Even in Scotland and in some of the European countries, even schools are drug testing, whether the kids are using drugs or not. So, use गर्दैछ भने निकाल्ने. मैले हाम्रो अक्षय सरलाई एउटै कुरा भने, ठिक छ पुलिसमा लु ड्रग टेस्टिङ गर्ने हो गर्दा भयो. तर यो पहिला सुरु त पोलिटिशियनकोबाट गरौँ हैन भनेर मैले सुरु भनेको नि. Why पुलिस अफिसरलाई? पहिला त पोलिटिशियनकोबाट सुरु गरौँ न त. And then see why you wanted to, एकजना पुलिस अफिसरकोबाट भेट्यो र सबजनालाई ड्रग टेस्टिङ गर्ने. So I'm telling you the same story. My nephew was found sniffing glue or smoking cannabis. Now maybe after 10 years, he may develop an addiction or problematic relationship with substance. So will you bar him from getting the employment in police? Will you? We all need to decide. We have to decide today. Are you going to bar him, saying that he is found positive? This is going to have a terrible impact on our community. See, एकजना interesting professor हुनुहुन्थ्यो क्या अमेरिकामा नि. He's no more. His name is called Professor Richard. He done a very interesting experiment, especially on rats. So this is for all of us. एउटा rat ल्याएर चाहिँ उसले एउटा केज बनायो अरे क्या. त्यो केजमा चाहिँ उसले rat राख्यो अरे. त्यहाँदेखि एउटा ड्रग्ड वाटर पनि राख्यो. त्यहाँदेखि एउटा पानी पनि राखिदियो अरे क्या. And he observed that rat. के चाहिँ गर्दो रहेछ ratले भनेर क्या. Ratले नि most of the time के गर्यो भन्दा घुम्छ अरे. गएर त्यही ड्रग्ड भएको पानी नै खान्छ अरे हो. फेरि घुम्छ अरे. फेरि गएर त्यही ड्रग्ड भएकै पानी खान्छ अरे. After few days, he took that drugged water so much, he overdosed and he died because he was in the cage. And Professor Richard thought like, what if I build a park? त्यहाँदेखि उसले सोच्यो अरे कि म पार्क बिल्ड गर्छु. एउटा सानो पार्क बनायो अरे. थुप्रो मुसाहरू हालिदियो अरे. मुसालाई मनपर्ने के हो चिज हालिदियो अरे. टनल बनाइदियो अरे. फिमेल मुसाहरू पनि हालिदियो अरे. And he observed that अन्त ड्रग्ड वाटर पनि हालिदियो अन्त नर्मल पानी पनि हालिदियो. The Professor Richard observed that many a times, hardly any of the rats went to the drugged water and drank it. They were playing, they were eating cheese, sometimes they were having sex also. So, उसले के पायो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ, what if in our society that we have created a cage rather than park? We need to answer that. हामीले केज बनाएको छौँ कि हामीले पार्क बनाएको छौँ? So this will shape up, how we are going to make our Sikkim tomorrow. See, drug-free society is illusion. जसलाई पनि तपाईहरुले पनि नो भन्नुस्. म चाहिँ त्यही भन्छु. Don't lie people unless and until if you don't know. Don't participate like saying drug-free world. You can't imagine also what drug-free. What drug are you talking about? Illicit or licit? Sugar is also a drug. Are you trying to make sugar-free world? What we are going to do? 25% of the world population, type 2 diabetes is contributed by the sugar. So are you criminalize people who are going to take sugar? What we are going to do? So drug-free society is an illusion. It is not going to happen. People are going to use drugs, whether it is illicit or whether it is licit. चाहे हाम्रो समाजले अप्रुभ गरेको ड्रग्स होस् या त हाम्रो समाजले अप्रुभ नगरेको होस्. सायद तपाईहरुको जेनेरेसनमा तपाईहरुले ट्राई गर्नु भएन होला. तर अब हाम्रो आउने जेनेरेसन, मेरो जेनेरेसनले, अब आउने मेरो जेनेरेसनले, many of them will have experience with some form of other drugs. पहिलाको 1800 backमा के थियो? They were only narcotics drugs. When we prohibited it, आजको दिनमा हेर्नुस् त what kind of drugs are there? They are amphetamine, they are ecstasy, they are दुनियाभरको ड्रग्सहरु छ. And अर्को कुरा हाम्रो most of the time we not only advocate for drug user, But then I sometimes feel for people who have been seen as a very differently. Yeah? I'll just give you the context of Jorthang. Jorthang ma, I think the opportunity and then the community is very dispersed and then it's very limited. Put yourself in that, the people, especially people from Majigao. So if they are working hard day and night, and they are earning 500. Bandana ma'am came from Mexico saying that, I just wanted to start some business in Majigao because there's a good demand. So Bandana ma'am goes to, I'm just putting you on the spot. Yeah, I'm so sorry. So Bandana ma'am goes and tells this community, hey, how much do you earn? He says, 500. I'll give you 1,500. Who's this drugs? Put yourself in that shoe. What you will do? You will go to the river or you'll try to sell the drugs. So, जबसम्म हामीले यो कुराहरु प्रति सोच्दैनौ, we'll end up saying, समाजको खतम. We don't see what exactly is happening in our samaj. The madam is talking about deforestation and fashion. We have never discussed deforestation and drugs. You can't even imagine things are happening in some other parts of the world. Especially in Burma, our most liked sir, MP sir, we have worked together also. Especially some parts of the Burma, in the very distant places, where the villagers, they cultivate opium. Read it, find it, and they have no other options. They grow it and they supply it. And now government is coming and cutting it off. And these villagers in those parts of the mountains cannot grow anything in those forests. What they are going to do, how they are going to send the children to the schools, do the government have some plan for those people? Because the world is against to make drug-free society. We are again punishing people, looking people in a different way. I have few numbers of friends from Indonesia and especially Malaysia. Kehi pani chaina unharko crime. They were lied. They were given a false promise saying that ki ma timilai yo country ma lanchu, yesto life dinchu. Only do is like your bag, your country dekhi, your country ma laijau. So when the person was doing, he get caught. Now he's in Malaysia. He's waiting for his, I don't know, we are still pushing for his not to have a death penalty because Malaysia has a death penalty for a drug pusher. So, these kind of things are happening around the world. But then when it comes to Sikkim, we all have to think. Because we are a small population, we only think that people who use drugs has only the problem with drugs. Not all the people, even United Nations ko afnai data हेर्नुस् हाम्रो मान्छे त कति जना पढ्नु पनि मान्दैन. Even United Nations ko every year there is a World Drug Report भनेर आउँछ. Even the report says the amount of people who use illicit drugs, hardly 5% people will develop a problematic relationship with the illicit drugs. So why we are trying to see everyone, whoever uses drugs is like, a threat to the society? No. I still smoke. I go sometimes cafe and I do caffeine. The recent study, caffeine is more harmful than the tobacco. Now what we are going to do? We are going to shut down the coffee shop. What? So we need to think something very differently. Because at the end of the day, we are part of this society. I'm brother to her, I'm brother to her, I'm brother to her. I'm not a different, yeah. Do I look like different? No one. You think, whenever you heard that, oh, phalna manche chahi alik drug khanda rahecha, you'll make a picture of that person, yeah. Ho kahaबाट आउँछ त्यो drug? Brown sugar khanda रहेछ, brown sugar. But then you never think of, let me go and talk to this person. What happens? Have you ever said, drug user have you ever said, hey buddy, if there's any problem, I'm there for you. And don't worry, I love you. How many times you have said that you care for those people? Never. But then you will judge. But then it will be very, unfair to say that. And I'm not trying to please also. In my life's experience, there's only one politician who has done something for our drug user community and especially among the young children. Is Mr. P.T. Rai. Please give him a round of applause. He's the only person from the politician that who has thought something to do among this community. So I was engaged most of the time. I used to question him so many times. But then still, I don't know why he found me so interesting. Prashant छ कि छैन भनेर सोध्थे अरे क्या. But then I always used to question him क्या. त्यस्तो किन भनेर क्या. So but then I tried to bring the truth in front of the people. I don't just wanted to lie to the people saying that कि oh sir, ड्रग त एकदमै डरलाग्दो हो नि, यसको लागि त हामीले भयङ्कर अभियान चलाउनु पर्छ नि. No, yeah. No need to, you know. I need to speak the truth. So we are here, we are part of this society, and whatever you all are trying to do, we are also trying to do the same. Drug user has all the right to live the life with the same dignity that you wanted to live with, the same respect that you wanted to live with. Yeah. So I, urge and I request you all to provide the same kind of dignity and respect to the drug user community. Thank you.
Yeah, Prashant. Yeah.
That, sir, our society has been poisoned from many years back. So, जुन चाहिँ society already poisoned छ, now that the poison like clear गर्नु पर्यो. Now we have to start telling the truth about जस्तो कतिजनाले यहाँनिर आफ्नो कुरा शेयर गर्नुभयो, and especially मलाई वन्दना म्याडमको आफ्नो एक्सपिरियन्स, उहाँको फ्यासनलाई रिलेटेड पहिला त्यहाँमा काम गर्नुभयो, and then she later turned into an activist and started talking about Gandhian philosophy and how we can make our fashion sustainable, कसरी त्यो गर्नुपर्छ भनेर. So our society has been already poisoned, and I don't blame also. किनभने तपाईहरुकोमा मेसेजै त्यही गएको छ, ड्रग युजर्स चाहिँ के हो, थ्रेट टु द सोसाइटी हो, यिनीहरु चाहिँ इभिल अफ द सोसाइटी हो भनेर. अनि त्यो भन्ने पनि को हो भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो आज जसको नाममा हामी यो के अरे इन्टरनेशनल युथ डे मनाइरहेको छौँ उहाँको नै हो. अन्त सो त्यसले गर्दाखेरि हाम्रोमा त्यो नरेटिभ अलरेडी गइसक्यो समाजमा हैन. अन्त त्यसलाई त पहिला हामीले रिफर्म गर्नुपर्छ, एन्ड द्याट रिफर्म इज ह्यापनिङ अलमोस्ट भइ पनि रहेको छ, बिकज देयर इज अ जोइन्ट स्टेटमेन्ट फ्रम युनाइटेड नेसन इटसेल्फ सेइङ द्याट टु अल द कन्ट्री मेम्बर कि मतलब ड्रग युजर जो पनि ड्रग कन्जम्सन गर्ने छ र पर्सनल पोजेसन फर पर्सनल कन्जम्सनको लागि छ, उनीहरूलाई डिक्रिमिनलाइज गर्नु भनेर अलरेडी देयर इज अ स्टेटमेन्ट. Now we as a country, we as a state, how त्यो स्टेटमेन्टलाई हामी लिने, या त हामी हाम्रो पुरानै थटमा बस्ने, या विल ओन्ली लुक फर द पोलिटिकल माइलेज हेरेर, मान्छेको भाइब्स हेरेर, पल्स हेरेर त्यसलाई लाने, या त हामीले साँचो कुरा समाजलाई भन्ने. So that is more important, and that is how it is going to shape our future as a Sikkim also, as a country also. And more importantly, I just like to request all of you, from next month we are doing a campaign on drug law reform. So so we need to change our law. Until and unless if we don't change our law, it is basically a threat to our society, because a lot of people have been suffered, a lot of people have been died, a lot of people, आजको दिनमा I think हाम्रो पिटी सरलाई अलिक aware होला, but then I don't know how many of you are aware. Mizoram is the highest prevalence in HIV. तपाईहरुलाई थाहा छ कि छैन? And most of the people think that it is sex. No. It is injecting drug. So because Mizoram is a Christian state भएकोले गर्दाखेरि त्यो Christian philosophy एकदम enforce गर्छ. केही कुरा हुनुको लागि पनि मतलब त्यो उनीहरुले जे भनेको छ त्यही कुरा गर्नुपर्छ. So what happened is, like, when you enforce this kind of law narrative, you pushes the community away from the system. So they goes underground. So मैले अघि तपाईहरुलाई भने, I was infected with hepatitis C. 2 साल अगाडि 3 साल अगाडि the treatment was more than 5 lakh rupees. But then we did the advocacy and now it is free. हैन, अहिले सित्तैमा पाइन्छ. तर सपोज कोही पनि मान्छे गरिब छ भने त त्यसले 5 लाख रुपैयाँको ट्रिटमेन्ट कहाँ गर्छ त? And because why I got infected is because I did not got the services. आजको दिनमा सिक्किममा needle syringe exchange programs भन्ने छ, जहाँनिर इन्जेक्टिङ ड्रग युजर्सलाई सित्तैमा निडल सिरिन्ज प्रोभाइड गरिन्छ, ओपिएट सब्स्टिट्युसन प्रोभाइड गरिन्छ. सो दिस इज अल द प्रिन्सिपल्स इज बेस्ड अन द युनाइटेड नेसन ओन्ली. त्यसलाई त कसैले पनि अपोज गर्नु सकेको छैन. सो हामीले इफ हाम्रो पोलिसीलाई ठिक गरेनौँ भने, जुन चाहिँ हाम्रोमा अलरेडी सुसाइड हाई छ, यो हाई छ, आज मिजोरममा जे पनि स्थिति भइरहेको छ. On 15th, I'm going to Mizoram border. I'm doing some studies there. What is happening with the cross border, Burma Dikhi Kecha, and I'm just going to do the study also. So the reason what I have learned from Mizoram and then the Burma and everything is like, because the moral, the narrative छ नि क्या, तिमी राम्रो मान्छे हो भने तिमी बेसी सेक्स गर्नु हुँदैन है भन्ने खालको हुन्छ नि. So if you are morally correct, then you are not going to do drugs. Yeah. drugs, sex, food, it has nothing to do with moral, yeah. Morally, म राम्रै छु नि, म कसैलाई भेटे म राम्रै गर्छु नि. So, but then your moral narratives एउटा जग्गामा छ, and then we have a draconian law like NDPS. So, जबसम्म यो हामीले चेन्ज गर्दैनौँ, but always remember one thing, I'm just predicting the future. The NDPS will also be changed. Remember, it will change, but then it will change by some corporates and some pharma companies. त्यति बेला तपाईहरु कसैले पनि केही पनि गर्न सक्नुहुन्न. They'll come up with a plan by saying that we wanted to make cannabis legal for medical purpose, यो त्यो भनेर आउँछ. None of us can do anything. Corporates are going to take the benefits. We need to start thinking from right now what kind of policy that we are going to make. Because at the end of the day, we are going to take care of our own citizens, our own people, right? So त्यसले गर्दाखेरि जुन चाहिँ लेटर क्याम्पेन छ, wherever you go, हुन्छ नि तपाईहरुले जब पनि NDPS को कुरा सुन्नुहुन्छ, SADA को कुरा गर्नुहुन्छ, always please talk about, removing that compulsory drug rehabilitation program. You don't have to do compulsory. Why you have to do compulsory? Make it volunteer. We live in अघि हामी सबैजना फ्रीडमको कुरा गर्दैछौँ, आज पनि we are talking about compulsory. Why compulsory? Let's start talking about voluntary basis kind of evidence-based treatment. Not just treatment. Treatment भन्नु बित्तिकै जेसुकै treatment हुन सक्दैन नि. हैन, just because I'm a former drug user doesn't mean that I know each and everything. Drugs को बारेमा मलाई सोधेर तपाईलाई सोधेर थोरै हुन्छ, फार्मा पढ्ने मान्छेलाई सोध्नु पर्यो नि, what exactly is drugs? यहाँ त जसले पनि भनिदिहाल्छ, अबे ब्राउन सुगर डर लाग्दो. The person doesn't know also what exactly the brown sugar is. अर्को तपाईहरुलाई म एउटा कुरा जानकारी दिन्छु. सिक्किममा 5000 जना क्यान्सर पेशेन्ट छ. I got that data from somewhere else. Hardly 2% of them have access to diamorphine. Diamorphine is a product made from the heroin, matlab opium. Just because of we have this law, and हामीले यो drug available हाम्रो cancer patient लाई pain relief को लागि दिनु सकेको छैन. Ironically, India is the biggest producer of diamorphine. Only 2% of our population has access to this diamorphine. The rest of the diamorphine goes to all foreign lands. Just because of the wrong narratives and bichako obligation le gardakheri, we are doing all this. So we need to change our policy. Until and unless we don't change our policy, that will never serve my community. There will be some kind of केही न केही problem भइरहेको हुन्छ, and when the problem becomes Mizoram type, then you'll realize, okay, no, we need to do something. So let's start doing something. That's it. Yeah, thank you.